And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the live chat for Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. We have the spring banner up as far as the showers and thunderstorms, and it is perfect for tonight because we actually have a line of, we have a severe thunderstorm or two within this line. We're going to talk about it in a moment. And of course, we're going to go over the pattern change we are about to feel and unfold. And of course, as we go forward, we'll have all of our questions from the live chat room. We'll answer all those first and cover all that. Just a note, unfortunately, for some reason, X was not able to connect properly with the stream for tonight. It happens, but it's streaming everywhere else on YouTube and Facebook and, of course, on Twitch. So happy to see all of you here. A couple of breaking news here. First, I just want to thank everyone on YouTube. We are rapidly rising to 21,000, over 21,000 subscribers. About 20, roughly 25, 26% of the people that actually watch this channel subscribe. So if the other 75% also follow up, that's pretty good. We're starting to challenge some of the quote unquote big hitters out there, and all without me having to hype anything or call for blizzards 15 days out. How do you like that? So thank you very much for subscribing. I do appreciate it. And of course, the premium subscribers, I always appreciate you as well. So let's dive into the latest and make sure that I got this up and running. Good, as you can see my cursor. So again, here's all the questions already coming in onto the live chat room. Let's take a look at our radar. Now I'm using two radars right now. I'm actually the creators for Weatherfront. It's an app that I'm using for the showers and thunderstorms. I actually met them at the AMS meeting. It was a great meeting. Really, this is all set up by just two guys. Very impressive work on the way that they use the data from National Weather Service and all the model data that's out there. So I'm using that app to zoom in on some of the thunderstorms and see if I can get a better look. I can actually pull up SKUTs while I'm doing that. Still trying to figure out how to get it up on here, so bear with me. We're also using the weather tap radar. And now here's the thing I'm noticing here. They put out a severe thunderstorm watch for basically Monmouth County down through Atlantic County, not Cape May County, because of the cooling influence of the Delaware Bay with the southwesterly winds that leads to a stable environment. So they left that out. But everywhere else in southwestern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania. Problem with this idea is that the atmosphere is pretty stable. Here, take a look at this. This is a SKU-T during this time period, right about now, from the HRR that just came out. So this is like 0 hour. And this is, just to show you, right around, let's say, Trenton, New Jersey. So it's right around the Delaware River, right? And as this line of showers and thunderstorms is approaching, we have this signature here. This is what this signature means. This is stable air, okay? So when you have a line like this, that means you have an inversion, right? So this means that when thunderstorms approach, they can get elevated. Now, why do we still have severe thunderstorm watches? Well, I'm thinking that because there's strong winds aloft, we get enough mixing. It can create strong enough winds to push 55-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Thus, the potential for severe thunderstorm watches. The only problem is that as we look at this radar, these cells are weakening. And you can also see that we're seeing the number of lightning that's being generated is starting to decline, which means our instability in the atmosphere is really, really starting to fall off here. So my thinking is that these are going to produce more heavy rain than anything else. If we do get a severe thunderstorm warning, it's going to come via a downburst wind gust because of the heavy rain mixing down some of the stronger winds aloft at around 850 millibars. But this line is weakening at a pretty steady point. We're actually, for the first time this year, thunder in the background. It's coming. So the line of showers and thunderstorms are on the way. It's going to be a bit of a stormy night tonight. As you can see, we zoom out here. We got a little bit of way to go before we get our cold front. So I think that the severe threat is going to decline, and that for the most part, if we do get a severe thunderstorm warning, it's going to be via wind gusts. As far as the tornado threat, we did have a bit of a tornado threat to the northwest of Harrisburg, and actually I posted that on X. Pretty impressive little signature here for this time of year. But we really don't have that threat going forward now. And the reason why we had that tornado threat is, again, it wasn't so much directional wind shear, but just speed shear that allowed for a bolt echo to spin up a tornado like signature. No confirmation yet as to whether or not we actually had a tornado on the ground, but certainly some impressive stuff. Now, as we move on through the evening, we will be dealing with waves of heavy rainfall. So again, I don't see severe thunderstorms out of this, but I certainly see heavy rainfall as we move on through the overnight period with some flashes of lightning. So you'll definitely see that if you're looking for that. Kind of similar to what we had with our intro, our countdown intro. Flashes of lightning, a little bit of rumble of thunder, but I think that's pretty much about it. Then we're going to get a little bit of a break, and then this starts to march its way through with a cold front on the way. Now, there's been a lot of talk over the past couple of hours about the potential for snow behind this cold front. Let's take a look at some of the data here. Let's take a look at the observations. This is our stable environment I was talking about. This is the surface-based cape. In terms of the lower rates here, again, our instability and the lower rates, lower lapse rates, are really in the Delaware River Valley, pretty stable on the immediate coastal plain. But the precipitant water values are pretty high, pretty well elevated. So when I combine these two together, and then we see the skew T with the more of a stable environment at the lower levels, this all tells me heavy rain. Okay. Thunderstorms in the Lehigh Valley, in the Delaware River Valley, right basically to the west of Delaware River, sure. But then once they cross the Delaware River, they move into a stable environment. But what about the cold air transport? Not bad. Pretty strong cold air transport. Now, there's a bit of a lag here. So this tells me the surface front's about here. The cold air transport's about here. You're going to get a little bit of a hang up in terms of the frontal boundary as it's marching across the Appalachian Mountains. So this will catch up a little bit. But this is a setup for what we call an anafront. Okay, now this is what this basically means. You have warm air still pushing, getting lifted over the cold air coming in. And so it's kind of like a ramp of moisture because we have all this moisture with the thunderstorms. And so you get precipitation behind the cold front. While that's happening, cold air is building in. Now, if this was January, this would lead to accumulating snowfall. But it is March. And during the day, very difficult to pull this type of stuff off unless you're in the highest elevations in terms of snow accumulation. But will there be support for snow in the air? Well, let's see here. The HRR here certainly suggests that. I'm sorry, this is the NAM. Here's the NAM certainly suggesting that. Let's pull up the HRR for 18 hours out. And yeah, it starts to show that as well. Not bad, right? This looks pretty impressive, right? How about the RFS? And we'll pull that up 18Z, and it's kind of showing the same thing. And I'm sure you're seeing this all over the internet, especially social media, Facebook, X, certain meteorologists who are big, some who are not. What's the reality here? Okay, so let's take a step back here. This is happening. We'll use the snowiest looking model. So we'll use the HRR. We can even use the GFS if you want. Okay, but let's go with the HRR for now because it looks the spookiest, right? So here we have this potential happening at 5 and 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Again, March, right? Higher sun angle, warmer boundary layer. So this looks impressive. And no doubt, I would not be surprised if we take a look at the 850 millibar temperatures here during this time period. And let's get back to 18Z to get the right hour. Yeah, this would definitely support cold air aloft and certainly support snowfall, right? at the mid-levels. And when you use your snow maps, this is what it's judging it by. So the snow maps basically take these numbers and multiply by 10. Okay. If you use the Crocersion map, it takes the average of these models from of the 500 millibar temperature regime and creates a snow map. But the idea is that it takes the average, right? So you don't have any idea on the boundary layer. So what about the boundary layer? Well, let's go down to 925 millibars. And it is awfully warm out ahead of this, right? And here we are at the mid levels, not as cold. Still chilly enough, still going up for snow in the air. Absolutely. Finally, let's go down to the surface. And this is where things get a little bit more tricky. Where is my surface temperature? There we go. Okay. And there's our warm air. It is nice and toasty this evening, right? It is beautiful out. You could probably go outside, go for a nice walk if you don't mind the rain. And then tomorrow morning is our actual highs for tomorrow or in the morning. And our temperatures fall throughout the day. But while this precipitation is occurring, we're in the 40s and 50s, right? And then as we get to the afternoon, we start to fall into the upper 30s and lower 40s. This whole time, wet pavement. And by the way, the pavement temperature at this point, after days in the 70s and 80s, that's right, 70s and 80s, is definitely above freezing. The ground's above freezing, the surface is above freezing. So now we get to roughly, let's see here, the 6 to 7, let's go 7 p.m., the latest that this precipitation is going to go in. And we're above freezing throughout this entire corridor. Now, there's some individuals posting snow maps saying, hey, look, we're on snow accumulation. We put out watches, warnings, blah, blah, blah. This is way too warm for this time of year with this type of boundary layer for snow accumulation on any pavement. If you have, let's say, grass and you're in the higher elevations, I can see it. I can see maybe a dusting, right? That's about it. Because again, while this whole process is happening, your snow ratio is more like it starts out 4-1, then 6-1, ends at around 8-1 ratio. So again, just kind of to show you that there is more to this than just taking 850s times 10 and throw out a map. Okay. In this process, again, I could definitely see big snowflakes in the air for tonight, for tomorrow afternoon. I could definitely see that happening. Absolutely. What I don't see anything is accumulation. Big snowflakes. Big snowflakes. After we had big temperatures with record high temperatures in the 80s. Gotta love March. Lousy March weather. Ugh. It is not fun to forecast for this stuff because it's just like pick a season already. But that's what March is around this area. It's not, and let me just say, this is not weird, unusual, someone trying to control it or anything of that nonsense. It's just March in New Jersey. Bless you. It's just March in New Jersey. That's all it is, unfortunately. Now this leads us to our weather pattern going forward. There's been an awful lot of talk about where our weather pattern is going. And, let's talk about some of the factors here. We have MJO here. We have the SOI here that is strongly positive, which leans more towards a La Nina like feel to the weather pattern. We have the MJO that is right now in about to move into phase 7. It's been in phase 5 and 6. So these would support our warm weather pattern scenarios. Here we are getting ready to move into phase 7 and 8. These would support more of a trough in the east, but it does not mean winter's returning. Okay, so let me explain this. Yes, there is support when you're in phase 7 and 8 for below normal temperatures in March. Absolutely. The thing is that the relationship is different than what you have in the middle of the winter. The correlation to the temperatures is much weaker as we move through March because March is a very changeable month. So what you get on March 1st is completely different than what you get on March 15th. It's completely different than what you get on March 31st. This month is the most changeable. I would say March is the same as a teenager. They are totally different one day to the next. And that's the way you have to handle March. Okay. A lot of changes, a lot of adjustments in the wavelengths of the atmosphere in the polar jet stream and the subtropical jet stream, changes in the influences of the polar vortex, and changes in the influences of tropical enforcing. So you cannot stick with the same rule that you were doing in February or even March 1st. You have to look at the pattern, look how it's all evolving, and then roll it forward. So, with that, yes, it does support below normal temperatures, but understand our normal temperatures at this point are in the mid 50s. By the end of March, a lot of locations are approaching 60 degrees. So, a 20-degree temperature anomaly, cold temperature anomaly for late March is the 40s, not the 20s. Okay. It's the 40s, which is raw and damp and cool. And you don't want to go out and watch a baseball game, but it's opening day, that type of stuff. It is not Arctic blast or I've seen people posting pictures with like the Statue of Liberty frozen over and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. I have to admit, some of these guys, yeah, yes, it's like a sci-fi. Exactly, exactly. I have to say the graphics are impressive, unrealistic but impressive. But it's not that, okay. But definitely unsettled. Absolutely agree with that. Definitely unsettled, active, and chilly. Our ENSO state right now, we have our well, we're getting out of La Nina and we're heading towards El Nino. We're kind of like in this limbo right now. Not a very strong signal from ENSO right now, aside from we had a La Nina signal in the SOI, which lines up better with the MJO, and we're going to see the SOI tank as we move into phase 7 and 8. So that doesn't really surprise me all that much. But we're on the way to changing towards a an El Nino. The average here is a little bit under 1. That's the average. You have some models that suggest a very strong El Nino, some that are featuring a more of a warm neutral state, even some that go back to La Nina. I know a lot of people are really, really pushing the upper end here. And they'll look at the European and so forecast and look at the higher end and pushing super El Nino idea. Is it possible? It's in the realm of possibility, but it doesn't have the strongest support. Okay, the strongest support is probably average El Nino. Could we move towards a strong El Nino? Sure, if we get above 1.5, but the fact that the subsurface is, well, not exactly supportive of that. Certainly, an El Nino is on the way. We have to wait for some cold water to start to show up around here to set the circulation up. Right now, it's just warm everywhere. Okay, you need a little bit of below normal temperatures out here, so that way you get the pressure set up, the wind change, the mass density set up here correctly. Right now, we don't have that. We don't have any of that right now. It's just warm everywhere. Okay. And your cold signal is basically right in here. And that's pretty much about it. But the one thing that kind of stands out to me is that, hey, our upper ocean heat anomalies are not exactly spiking towards like that 1.5 range. If we start getting the upper ocean heat anomalies, that's kind of like the water bubbling. That's all this, right? If we get that to start pushing above 1.5, then I think we can, based on observations and based on realistic expectations, then talk about a super El Nino. But until we get above 1.5, you don't have the source region for it, right? Regardless of what some models say, you don't have the source region for it to support that type of heat. if we get that spike, which is certainly possible, I've seen plenty of times where it just kind of meanders along, and then in May and June it produces a spike. Then we can jump on that bandwagon. But for right now, I'm thinking moderate El Nino. And either way, it means that we're going to have a quiet Atlantic hurricane season. Doesn't mean we're going to be safe, because you only need one, but it may be just that many type of storms out there. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll have that discussion down the road. But I don't see any sign in the observations for a super El Nino. But we'll see how that plays out. And again, you can see that whole setup here. There's a lot of warm water all over the globe, except for, of course, the Northeast. And take a look at this. Let's zoom in. Oh, that's Northeast Atlantic. Let me go to East Coast. Where are you? Perfect. Now that is some cold water. By the way, this is what's killing your severe threat around Cape May. So there you go. And it would kill your severe threat around Long Island too if the thunderstorms were remaining that strong around Connecticut. Lot of cold water around here, really suppressing this whole threat. Now, what this also means is that, hey, watch out for your backdoor cold fronts throughout the spring with this type of cold water hanging around. In the meantime, what else do we have? We have our El Nino, sorry, not El Nino, our polar vortex here remaining weak. When it gets to this point here, basically this around April is when our polar vortex goes bye-bye and it doesn't really matter anymore, right? It basically collapses. So we still have basically a weak polar vortex continuing through the rest of March. And yeah, that can support wave of cold air and a chilly spring. One thing I have noticed, I've been talking to the premium members about this, is that really a lot of focus is more towards Eurasia here than North America. Now, again, this tells me that we're dealing with the weather pattern with transient cold air. And so when I take a look at the ensemble guidance and look at the overall theme here, again, we don't want to dive into details. If you have anyone telling you about major winter storms or detailing exactly when we're going to get a winter storm and posting snow maps, it is complete trash. Don't even waste your time. Don't waste your anxiety. It's not worth it, especially this time of year. What this pattern basically illustrates is a pattern where we have a very progressive weather pattern. This is very progressive. Waves of warm and cold air over the northern mid-Atlantic, ending by the end of March, where we could end up with more of a trough over the west, a zonal pattern with Pacific air. You see this feature right here? This right here is finally your actual east-based negative NAO. This is a strong signal, not for storms, but for a nasty backdoor cold front. So what does that mean? Well, let's say you're in Long Island. You may be cloudy, showers, and temperatures around 46. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, it is scattered clouds, pretty nice, 76. Literally a 30-degree gradient. We've already seen that already this past week, where parts of Long Island were in the 40s and 50s, and parts of especially eastern Long Island and areas in central New Jersey were in the mid 70s. So we already have seen that type of gradient already set up, and even some locations pushing 80 degrees, getting you to that 30-degree gradient. So unfortunately, that's what this signal is. This is not a storm signal. This is a raw, ugly signal, especially for the immediate coast, Long Island, Connecticut, and southern New England, where you just get this cool air from the Canadian Maritimes trying to press down and lift up all the warm air that's building in the Ohio River Valley. And most of that is driven by influences from the Pacific air masses coming across and air masses trying to creep in from the Gulf Coast. I should note that this type of signal here actually shunts the tropical air type air masses more towards the southeastern United States rather than the northern mid-Atlantic, because everything's kind of zonal. Everything is just kind of um what's the word I want to call it? Aggressive. Okay, and zonal and pushing everything out. So that is certainly some interesting signals in that respect. So I don't see this weather pattern as perpetually cold, below normal, sure, but not significantly below normal. Active, sure, but not winter storm active. Okay. So I just kind of want to make sure we lay down the groundwork because I had a phone call this morning from a client and they were like, someone's posting 30-inch snowfall, and it came from the European AI guidance roughly 4 days ago. Now, what this person did, they cropped out the snow map, removed the date, right? And then it's posting it all over Facebook. And of course, people talk, and this person's a snowplow guy, so he just took off his plow, so he's having a heart attack, right? And I'm like, there's no support for this. It was a one-off model run and it's gone, right? So unfortunately, there are people out there who are trying to scare you with that. And the reason why they do that is that way they can make money off of those maps, whether they're altered or not. Your job, since you're watching, is when you see that, don't interact and hit the spam button. That's the best way to reduce that type of interaction, so to speak. Don't even try to tell them this is nonsense. They know it's nonsense. They purposely know it's nonsense. They don't care. They just want to make money off of your click. So make sure you do that. Now, as far as the weather pattern, again, you kind of see here, you get the cold air coming in, but again, notice the rapid moderation as this is coming through, as opposed when we see this in January and February, where the cold air stays cold. This is moderating pretty quickly. The reason why is that once it gets out of its source region, where we have all this snow up here, well, it moderates pretty quickly because a lot of your snowpack is basically taking a beating or is gone. So what happens is that this combined with the higher sun angle rapidly moderates these air masses. So again, even though this is well below normal, let's say 10 degrees below normal, what is that really? Well, if your average is 55, then we're talking about 45, right? When we're seeing this type of air mass swing through. Then we get an above normal period, cold period, and then we moderate once again. And here's your backdoor cold front potential with the warm air trying to push in, and we're kind of caught in between. This is an active weather pattern, good potential for some rainfall, maybe even some wintry mix for higher elevations. Certainly one that's going to keep me on my toes, and a good potential for severe weather if you're in the Lehigh Valley and South Central Pennsylvania, the Ohio River Valley. Very interesting pattern to say the least. Let's head back towards our radar and see if there's anything new and compare and contrast. And let's zoom in on our thunderstorms here. And again, one severe cell, mostly driven by strong winds. Let's see here. Yep, see 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, radar indicated. So again, what's basically happening with that thunderstorm cell is that it's above the instability here, right? It's above the cap here. So it's being lifted and it's mixing down these stronger winds. And when you have a triangle here, that means 50 knots. And then the little line here, that's 55 knots. So in terms of miles per hour, this is about 60 miles per hour. So what's happening is that the thunderstorm is mixing these winds down to the surface, okay? They're becoming more elevated, but that wind gust potential via downburst wind gust via heavy rainfall is why you still have that warning still showing up. As you move forward, notice this line is starting to collapse. I'll be very interested to see what happens when this part of the line that is moving through the Delmarva Peninsula interacts with the Delaware Bay, which is very cold, and see how that line sets up. I wonder if it just completely collapses or if it produces just very heavy rain over southwestern New Jersey and Cape May. They just put out a severe thunderstorm warning here. Let's see what it's saying. The primary focus again is like we were discussing the 60-mile-per-hour wind gust. So we're optimizing mixing here with this line as it's moving through. And most likely that is driven by very, very heavy rainfall associated with that line. So again, the heavy rainfall mixes down to strong winds as this is all marching through the region. So now I basically went over what we're expecting with this forecast. And, you know, as we go on through the next couple of days, we'll have these cold fronts moving through. Again, we talked about the antifront type snowfall for tomorrow with snow in the air, not much in the way of any accumulation. And then a very progressive pattern, one after the other. Don't be surprised on Sunday of it being very windy around here. I would not be surprised if we have, right now I'm going 10 to 20 miles per hour. I would not be surprised if we bump up those winds to 15 to 30 miles per hour coming in from, let's see, from the west here in this scenario, west and veer into the southwest in this scenario. And then you have the showers coming through on Monday, but it looks like a very windy day on Sunday and warm too overall. And then again, very, very progressive weather pattern. I don't see any type of major storms, but a lot of pesky short waves on the move. Now, with that, let me jump in there and talk about, answer all the questions we have here in the live chat room, and then we'll check out social media world, especially YouTube, and see if we got anything on Twitch. So first, let's jump into the live chat room here. Volume issues. Oh, okay. I don't know. I haven't changed anything, so how in the hell it must have reconnected itself? I don't know. That's weird. Well, the whole thing is I clicked on what I did is I put on the YouTube, so it's not on X, like it's not streaming on X at all. I don't know. Beats me. Yeah, I think that's because of YouTube. Uh huh. Yeah, yeah, beats me. I we'll have to figure it out. I know that. I know that X is definitely having technical issues. I'm seeing on there. They got like a big. They on my software. They have like this big triangle with a exclamation point next to X. It's called error in the streaming. Everything else is pretty much good to go. I don't know. Beats me. All right, let's take a look at the chat room here. Let's see. Cards asking. First, yeah, I'll work on to see if I can change the colors in the chat room. After I do it, I'll ask Susan to help me because I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I thought they were blue, but apparently they're green. But I'll take a look and see what I can do about that. If the mid-level temperatures cool off faster than the surface due to the cold air transport being faster at those levels than the surface, combined with evening cooling, could that itself create some instability that could help with thunderstorm development overnight tonight? Uh, if we were later in the season, like let's say July, well, not even July, let's say May, right? Um, we might be able to pull that off. But in this scenario, because of the influence of the ocean, there's just creating far too many areas of stable and of a stable environment on the coastal plain, especially along and east of the Delaware River, to really drive that type of scenario. Later on in the season, yeah, I could definitely see that, especially with a jet streak at 850. I could definitely see that happening, but not this time. No warnings yet for New Jersey. Actually, they just came in 52 in Queens. There we go. And that is right there a stable environment in Queens. Those who like snow have to be happy that the polar vortex being directed mostly towards Asia is happening now rather than the winter. I would agree. Hey, look, take the win. We had an amazing winter. We had a very busy winter. So, just take it, you know? Yeah, I guess so. Any flooding concerns as this works through? I would not be surprised if we get some small stream and urban flooding out of this, especially urban flooding. If anyone has any type of block drainage around here, they're definitely going to have flooding from that. And New York City always floods, so wouldn't be surprised there's some issues there. Was that backdoor cold front today? The high was 82 in Newark and only 58 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. No, that's just because of the position of the stationary front that was wavering over Connecticut. That's why it stayed a little bit cooler there. A lot of New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, and of course the Philadelphia metro was to the south of the stationary front. But you could make an argument that a backdoor cold front like setup helped to lock in the stationary front. Recorded gusts to 44 as the storms pushed through northeast Maryland a few minutes ago. Impressive. Let's see. I have soccer practice next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Bridgeport. How cold will it be? It looks like it's going to be in the mid to upper 30s. So I'd layer. As of right now, that's what it looks like right now. It is going to be rather chilly in the middle of next week. Again, it's going to be kind of like one of those smack backs to reality where the cold air comes in. But understand, in this scenario, minus 10 degrees Celsius at 850 now supports temperatures basically between the upper 30s and mid 40s around the region. So it's definitely going to be a bit of a chilly workout for you, especially at 6 p.m. Do you foresee any extended periods of no rain? Um, for That's a tough one. I do expect some dry periods, but I think this spring is going to be where almost every day I'm going to have a threat for scattered showers in the forecast. But that might not necessarily mean your location will have rainfall, if that makes any sense. Um, I do expect also the potential for some heavy rainfall events this spring, and I'm actually concerned about flooding around northeast New Jersey and the Hudson River Valley for some pretty impressive heavy rainfall events. I'm definitely thinking that. Let's take a look what we have in social media world. Let's see. Let's see. Just making sure Twitch is. I don't know. A lot of social media seems to be having some issues tonight. Yeah, yeah. Something's going on. They don't like the weather. Let's take a look what's going on YouTube and see. Someone's going snow chasing. Good luck with that one. That's 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 definitely new. I know storm chasing. I mean, I've known that since I was a kid, right? Mets home opener weather Thursday 3:26. Oh my God, that's true. It is March 26th. Oh man, I thought 1:15 p.m. Oh, home. Oh, it's the Mets opener weather for Thursday. That's a little bit too far out to me for me. Um, I'll check back in on you, Jeff. It's a little bit too far out for any type of specifics, but it does look a little bit cool. So we'll see. Um, let's see here. Do you think any of these storms reach New York City? Yeah, they'll reach. The thunderstorms will reach New York City, but they won't be as strong. But definitely heavy rainfall. Cape May likely will escape any severe thunderstorms, but I do expect heavy rainfall. The reason why is that the environment is just so stable in this setup. Do you see the drought ending before the summer? Yes. That's one thing I am confident of. I do think we see the end to the drought signal. Of course, I'm a little concerned we go from one extreme to the other, especially once we establish El Nino. Watch for the subtropical jet stream to get very, very active. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Carmen, I'm going to mess up this name. Marietta. I think I did that right. I don't know. I apologize ahead of time. I'm not good with names, and I butchered the English language. So forget about like the Spanish or it. Oh my God, it is just it's not good. I'm really good with multivariable calculus, but pronouncing people's names, forget about it. And places that too. That Names and places, not good. That is definitely my Achilles heel. But multivariable calculus, very good. But I do appreciate it. I do try, to just be honest. Am I going to be right all the time? No. That'd be weird. As I always say, if I was right all the time, I wouldn't be doing this stream because I'd be locked up by the government, and they'd be like, "How are you right all the time?" That doesn't. Um, let me go that. I do think we're going to have an active severe season, and I'm going to be keeping an eye out for derechos once we get it established. Once we get a better idea on the alignment of the weather pattern this year, the polar jet stream, um, around from the Great Lakes to the northwestern Atlantic. If we get an alignment where we have a constant northwesterly flow around us, which is typical during El Nino summers, that can be a lot of thunderstorm complexes dropping their way through our neck of the woods. And for those of you following along, Italy is beating the hell out of Mexico, basically saving the skin of Team USA, whose manager is a freaking idiot. So just wanted to share that out there. Let's see. We got a new severe thunderstorm warning. I better check that out. So let's take a look at that. And yeah. Active sun is now facing us and has only a handful of quiet spots. Activity really has fallen off a cliff, it appears. Yes, we are going to see that more and more this year. And then next year, I think we're going to see a lot more blank sun periods. Um, this year is more going to be kind of like when it's active, it's not as active, but we'll see a lot of those where we get like one or two, excuse me, or three um, sunspots, but not like the 10 and 20 that we were seeing. 3:26 is very early for baseball in Queens. Yes, it is. I'm reading historic snowfalls of central New York. Can you recommend any other snowstorm books? The one snowstorm book I would strongly suggest is Northeast Snowstorms by Cosin and Ussolini. It's an AMS book. I would strongly suggest that one. That's my go-to. That's like my Bible when it comes to snowstorms. Let's take a look and see what is going on with our thunderstorms. Let's refresh this, see what we have here. And we have another severe thunderstorm warning up here towards. See, this makes sense. We're seeing a lot of mixing going on here. Notice, okay, and what's the primary concern? 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So notice what's happening here. We're not getting a defined bow echo type line anymore. We're getting a lot more heavy rain signal. And same thing over here too. We're kind of losing our bow echo sign, right, that we have with these severe thunderstorms. Let's zoom in on this. You can see it's kind of losing that bow echo signature here. You got a little bit more down towards central Delaware. Still pretty strong, but it's starting to lose its punch because it's becoming elevated in the stable environment. But because it's becoming elevated, it's having a better capability of mixing down those strong winds. So that's why we're getting the severe thunderstorm warning without it actually looking like a severe thunderstorm. What we have here is a lot of heavy rain and then some strong wind gusts, downburst wind gusts within that heavy rainfall. We do have a lot of lightning here with this one, so that's certainly an interesting sign. But it'll be interesting once it gets to about here where the atmosphere becomes very much stable. Our lifting index goes to +1 around here to see how that influences the storm. The previous storm that was approaching here, notice it's basically just heavy rain now. I expect the same thing to happen with this one. Then, as we go further west, we have our next line here. But again, this right here, here's our prefrontal trough. This line here is also starting to lose its punch as it's moving more and more into a stable environment. So as we move on through the night, we're going to continue to see this transition from severe to heavy rain. The crux, though, is that with the heavy rain, you get more mixing of the strong mid-level winds. And you can see these mid-level winds right here. There's 850 millibar winds here. And let's see here. 850. We'll do HD to really enhance that. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now, this is right over the region. And when we click on this area, I know it's a little hard to see. Basically, that supports 65 knots right over us. Another way to look at it is we'll use this. And again, here again is our jet streak here, aligned right over us. So what's happening is that these thunderstorms are mixing down these winds, and we can also see that in the skew T. So as the storms get elevated over this area, again, you can see that here over northern New Jersey as well. There's our stable environment, right? And then unstable here. So it's conditionally unstable if you get enough lifting. There's our instability. Not much of a cape, but we get the severe thunderstorm warning because this lifting allows us to tap into these strong winds here. So every time you get heavy rainfall, it's a momentum transfer. The winds are moving quickly from the southwest, so they're moving at this level. And then when you get the heavy rain, that basically creates a momentum transfer from the mid levels of the atmosphere down to the surface, which leads to your wind gust potential, which is why we have these severe thunderstorm warnings issued. So it's a little mechanism part of convective weather, which it's very difficult in the mid-Atlantic. Here's the thing. In the plains, severe thunderstorm forecasting is very, very easy. I know no one wants to hear it, but it is, right? I got basically three air masses to consider when it comes to forecasting in the plains with severe thunderstorms. I have the tropical air mass coming in from the Gulf, right? So that's usually a southerly or even southeasterly wind. I got the westerly wind coming out of the desert. So there's your dry line. And then I have my polar air mass coming in from the northern plains. Once I pretty much line those three up, the forecast is easy. Then it's a matter of just figuring out where the clash is and where my best instability is. So what I look for is the instability, strongest instability, aligned with the strongest wind shear, combined with directional wind shear from the surface up to the mid levels. You can even go up to 500 millibars, and then the interaction between those air masses. Easy forecast. 1, 2, 3. In the northern mid Atlantic, I got the maritime air mass, sea breeze front, the outflow boundary scenarios within the mountain ranges here, the setup between the topographical setup between the Appalachian Mountains and the coastal plain, which, depending on the alignment of it, can either lead to enhancement or weakening. The I-95 corridor enhancement of the uh, urban heat influence. Then you have polar air mass, tropical air mass, Pacific air mass, and oh, by the way, also different types of tropical air masses. One coming in from the Gulf, the other one coming in from Bermuda. So it's a little bit more complicated. So it can be a hell of a challenge because then what you get here is not just potential for tornadoes, but you can get a severe threat where you get tornadoes, flooding rain, downburst wind gusts, straight line winds, and also the only thing you really don't get is large hail because you really don't have the duration for the thunderstorms to produce the hail to produce like 3-inch hail and stuff like that. That's very, very rare to pull off, and you really don't get like the F3 or F4. Well, you can pull off a rare F3, but for the most part, you never see F4 or F5. Thank God, in this scenario, because you just don't have the time for the thunderstorm to develop and really intensify because there's just far too many boundaries to work with. So, in this scenario, I got the stable boundary here. I got the instability here. I got the cold front way back here, prefrontal trough here, influence from the mountains here, live interaction here. It's always fun. Let's see here. And it's 52 in Queens. So there we go. Good job, Thomas. Let's see. What else do we have here? Yeah, I saw. I answered some of this already. Let's see. Is that a rotation? Let me see here. I want to check something out here. Let me see if we actually have a rotation on here. Let's see. Standard storm relative. No, that's definitely straight line wind gusts scenario. Doesn't look like a rotation. The way it's moving, it looks like more like because of the placement of the radar and the way that the thunderstorms move through. What you're looking for is obviously you look for a combination of red and green, right? So that would look for your circulation. But in this scenario, the red seems to be the leading edge and the green is behind. It's not really setting up a tornado signature, but more of a straight line wind type of signature setting up with that thunderstorm. That's what it looks. It looks a lot more wave like. Let's see here. Da, da, da. Any insight as to why 2023 New Jersey had nearly 20 tornadoes that year? Yeah, I am working on research. I've been collecting research and I've been testing out this theory for quite some time that I think that the I-95 corridor, the building up of the I-95 corridor is leading to what we call an urban heat island effect. And the urban heat island effect leads to these gradients, right? Where low level winds are turning in and then away from the urban heat island. And what you get is this low level convergence and enhanced lifting. That enhanced lifting enhances the potential for more circulation to be lifted, which can enhance the potential for tornadoes. If you get the favorable atmospheric environment for everything else line up just right, you could really end up with a lot of mesoscale lows that can support the development of tornadoes. So I've actually mentioned to a couple people on in that do a lot of research. I was like, hey, take a look at this. This is something that's interesting that I've really found, and I use it as part of my forecasting process now. When I look for tornadoes, I look for locations in southeastern Pennsylvania, right around Philadelphia, just north and west of Philadelphia, and basically around Burlington, Monmouth, and Ocean County. Those are my two hot spots for tornado potential. Then further to the west, and you got south central Pennsylvania, which is naturally a little bit more favorable for tornado development. Let's see, what else do we have here? I would think, let's see, I would think the terrain also has an impact, not nearly as flat as the plains. Oh yeah, absolutely, it definitely does. Um, that's why I kind of look for right around the Delaware River Valley, where we get just enough of a favorable environment. New York City had one cooling degree day yesterday. How unusual is that for March 10th? Very. In fact, it was a record high in many locations in the New York City metro. I don't know why Mark Duraso is a bad manager. Not, I have no words. I just don't know how you can manage a team and not know what the rules of the competition that you're in. I don't understand that. Let's see here. Yeah, that's true about the EML. You're absolutely right about that. Um, okay. Yeah, Monmouth County as well. Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a tricky scenario playing out in that respect, and we're going to be, we're going to have to keep. Yeah, right. We had that. Remember, right before we were moving into here, we were setting things up and stuff, and we had a bunch of tornadoes, and I was freaking out because we just bought the house, and all of a sudden we're worried about tornadoes. I'm like, you've got to be kidding! And honestly, we probably should have brought the guinea pig here, and just kept it here, and went down to the basement. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yes, that is true. We couldn't really do anything. We were yes, and right at the very beginning, and I'm worried about tornadoes. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's true too. Yeah, we had to travel. It was a big mess. We just closed on the house. We had to travel for my brother's wedding, and we had tornadoes to dodge. But we're very picky. We're trying to find the right one for us. We do. I want a camel too. Okay, can I get a camel? No. I would like a dog, a cat, a wombat, and a. I you know what I really want? I want Wolverine. Put a hat on it. It could be a mascot. Be great. Yes. That's the thing. We want to rescue. Yeah. Well, yes. Thomas mentions he doesn't see many tornadoes in Queens, and that is a good thing. Hopefully, we do not. Monday, my friend is going to Minneapolis. He asks, how cold will it be? I would definitely get your parka out. It's going to be chilly. It's going to be very chilly up there. 20s and 30s the last time I checked. I would definitely be prepared for that. But when is he? Monday? He's going on Monday? Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be fun, that is for sure. Especially after spending days in the 70s around here. Not good. Let's see here. Got everything answered on Twitch. And got everything answered on. Yeah, yeah. I do. I think that we could have a wide variety. I think I'm gonna be like the Jungle Book. I'm gonna just have all the animals. We get birds. We get like a big huge bird and just land right here, you know. And whenever we get threats, we can sick them on people. Yes, I think we can make friends with crows. Sloth would be great too. That's perfect. Can we? Yeah, I think I would love to get a sloth. That'd be outstanding. That'd be great. Wouldn't you? Yeah, but they're slow, so it's fine. Yeah. Oh, I mean, if they try to hook on, I can dodge. You know, if you could dodge a claw, you could dodge a ball. Yeah. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a sloth. There you go. Perfect. Just to follow up before we close out on our thunderstorm line, boy, oh boy, this one's loaded with lightning. Oh boy, Southwest New Jersey, you guys are going to get a light show out of this one. And also the one further to the north is starting to lose its punch, but it's getting there. Notice again, as it's moving into a more stable environment, the colors here are becoming a little bit less gradually. But here's the problem with severe thunderstorms is that once they get going in the instability area, it takes them a while to wind down. So it's not like they just hit the stable zone and then just collapse. Usually what happens is that as they're getting elevated higher in the atmosphere, they gradually slacken off, and while they do that, they're still mixing down all those strong winds. Thus, that's why you're seeing this severe thunderstorm warning. And you see another one that pops up right here in southern New Jersey. Let's click on this. I bet you it's focusing on the wind gusts. It is 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, radar indicated. And basically, what it's picking up, let me see if I can pull it up here. I'll see if I can pull this up. See if it works this time. Let's see. Okay. So this is the line here. And what do we want? We want. Here we go. All right. And let's take off some of these other overlays here. So we already know about the watches and warnings. And we'll zoom in on this. And there's our squall line right there. There's our winds right there. That's clear straight line winds right there, just marching right across. And we're seeing that right here too. Okay, so your straight line winds is marching across, kind of losing its punch as it's pushing further into the more stable air mass. And you're also going to see that here as well as this is coming on through. So again, as I suspected, the primary concern here is the strong straight line winds. Don't be surprised there's a power outage or two, and perhaps maybe um, some small wind damage, like minor wind damage, should I say, like trees down, something of that nature, tree limbs. But as it's moving into the more stable air mass, it'll start to gradually lose its punch. But we're dealing with some pretty heavy rainfall on the way as this is all moving through. And then we'll watch out for some wet snow tomorrow evening. How about that? That's it for tonight's live chat. We got to 9 p.m. I'm going to head off to bed and get some nice sleep. And oh, what do we got? Oh, let's see here. Oh, here's Philly weather. Let's see. Thanks. I'm studying for physics test. Holy smokes. All right, Philly weather. Good luck on the physics test. Remember, no matter what happens, gravity still works. Okay? So gravity works, so it's all good. But definitely everyone wish Philly weather a good luck on his physics test. Been there, done that. Ah, man, that brings me back to um, memories of when we had physics tests with multivariable calculus and also dynamic meteorology all at the same day. Yeah, I was crazy. What can I say? That was a fun time, but definitely good luck. And I'm sure you'll get an A. So just take your time. And look, if you blow the curve, don't say it out loud because the fraternities do not like that. I learned, trust me on this, I learned that the hard way. They did not like the fact that I ended up with an A in physics. And this was when I was a freshman and I was all excited and I was like doing like, yeah, all right, because it was my first physics test as a freshman, right? And all these Greek guys turned and looked at me and just like, because of you, I got a D. I'm like, I didn't do anything to your test, but it's because I blew the curve. So eventually, what the physics teachers had to do was take all the Met students and move them out of the curve, so that way the rest of the class would pass. So as without us, the curve was like a 60. I'm sorry, a 40 was a C, which is ridiculous. So it was almost like we were in a separate realm. So I'm sure you do fine, but just take the time and you'll get there. And of course, as you move further on, you're absolutely right, Smack. Um, as you go further, um, as a meteorology student, getting a C in some of these classes is like getting an A in many of these other classes because the junior and senior year, like my communication, I had a floor mate that I was with that was a communications major, and he got all excited because he got on the dean's list. His final was a dissertation about Big Bird. My final was multivariable calculus and trying to prove a forecast in front of a professor and writing a report about the 1979 blizzard, the President's Day blizzard, and his was Big Bird. So not always comparable. So enjoy the freshman year if you're in freshman year, but definitely good luck. That's it for tonight. We're going to get some rest. Thank you again for everyone that has subscribed. Thank you to all the premium members. I really appreciate it. As always, your questions are always freaking awesome. And of course, I want to thank all the subscribers on X and YouTube, the followers. I really appreciate it. Keep on going, keep on subscribing, pass the word, let everyone know this is where you can find weather information that you can actually trust. In the meantime, stay safe out there.